What if the hardest thing you face today is not your schedule, your problems, or your responsibilities, but learning how to love the people around you the way God loves you? Every day we interact with people who test our patience, misunderstand our intentions, or carry attitudes that make kindness feel difficult. Yet the truth is, real love is not something we naturally produce on our own. It is something God teaches us when we invite Him into our hearts. This morning prayer is about starting the day differently. It's about asking God to fill your heart with His love, to heal the pain that makes loving others hard, and to guide your words and actions so that His love flows through you in every moment. So before you step into the noise and pressure of today, take this moment to pray and let God teach you how to love before we ask God to help. Yes, love others today. We have to begin with a simple truth. We cannot give what we do not have. So many of us wake up trying to be patient, trying to be kind, trying to be understanding with people, but deep inside we feel empty, tired, or overwhelmed. And when the heart is empty, love becomes difficult. That is why this morning prayer begins with a request that may sound simple but is actually life-changing. God, fill my heart with your love first, because the love we naturally produce is limited. It runs out when people disappoint us. It struggles when someone speaks harshly. It weakens when we feel unappreciated. Human love often depends on how we are treated. But God's love operates on a completely different level. His love is patient when we would normally be irritated. His love is gentle when we would normally react quickly. His love keeps flowing even when circumstances are not easy, and that is the love we need if we are going to walk through today with peace in our hearts. Think about it for a moment. If you begin your day already frustrated, already carrying yesterday's stress, already thinking about the people who annoyed you, then every interaction becomes heavier. The smallest problem feels bigger. The smallest disagreement feels personal. But when you start your morning inviting God into your heart, something shifts on the inside. You begin the day grounded. You begin the day with peace. You begin the day remembering that God's love is greater than anything you will face. And when His love fills your heart first, it begins to overflow into everything else. That is the beauty of starting the day with prayer. You are not just asking God to change the world around you. You are asking Him to transform what is happening within you. Sometimes we think loving people means trying harder, pushing ourselves more, or forcing ourselves to act nicer. But the truth is that real love is not produced by pressure. It is produced by connection with God. When your heart is connected to Him, love becomes the natural result. You become slower to judge and quicker to understand. You become less focused on proving a point and more focused on showing grace. And that change does not happen because you suddenly became perfect. It happens because you allowed God's presence to reshape your heart. When you pray in the morning and ask God to fill you with His love, you are inviting Him to guide your thoughts, soften your reactions, and direct your words throughout the day. Many people are trying to love others while their own hearts feel exhausted. Maybe you are carrying pressure from work. Maybe you are worried about your future. Maybe you feel hurt by someone close to you. In those moments, love can feel like a heavy responsibility instead of a joyful expression. But this is exactly where God meets us. He does not expect you to manufacture love out of thin air. Instead, He invites you to receive His love first. When you slow down in prayer and acknowledge His presence, you begin to remember something powerful. You are already deeply loved by God. You are not waking up today trying to earn His approval. You are waking up already embraced by His grace. And when that truth settles into your heart, it changes the way you see everything else. When you know you are loved by God, you stop searching for validation from everyone around you. When you know you are loved by God, criticism does not shake you the same way. When you know you are loved by God, you begin to operate from a place of security instead of insecurity, and from that place, love becomes easier to give. Instead of reacting out of fear or frustration, you begin responding with patience and wisdom. Instead of holding on to resentment, you start recognizing opportunities to extend grace. God's love has a way of transforming ordinary moments into powerful ones because it changes the heart behind every action. As this morning begins, the most important thing you can do is invite God to fill every corner of your heart with His love. Let Him replace the tension you feel with calm. Let Him replace the heaviness you carried from yesterday with fresh peace. Let Him remind you that His love is not fragile or temporary. It is steady, constant, and available to you right now. When God's love fills your heart first, you do not walk into the day empty. You walk into the day overflowing. And when your heart overflows with His love, everyone around you begins to feel the difference. So today, before you try to change anyone else, let God begin by filling you. Let His love shape your attitude, guide your reactions, and lead your steps throughout the day. God, fill my heart with your love first so that everything I do today flows from you. Now, after asking God to fill our hearts with his love, there is something else we must be honest about in this moment of prayer. Many of us want to love better, but the truth is our hearts are carrying things that make love difficult. Some of us are holding on to hurt that came from words spoken years ago. Some of us still feel the sting of betrayal from someone we trusted. Others are quietly carrying disappointment, rejection, or memories that still bring pain when we think about them. And if we are not careful, those wounds begin to build walls around our hearts. We may not even realize it, but the pain we experienced yesterday can quietly shape the way we treat people today. That is why this moment in prayer is so important, because God is not only interested in helping us love others, he also wants to heal the places in our hearts that have been damaged by past experiences. Sometimes we try to ignore our pain. We say we are fine. We tell ourselves to move on. But the truth is that buried hurt does not disappear. It simply hides beneath the surface and influences the way we react to people. A small disagreement suddenly feels like a deep offense. A misunderstanding feels like another betrayal. And before we know it, bitterness begins to grow in places where love should live. But this morning, God invites us to do something different. Instead of pretending the pain is not there, he invites us to surrender it to him. Not later, not someday when life slows down. Right now, in this quiet moment of prayer, we bring those hurts to God honestly. We bring the disappointment we felt when someone let us down. We bring the frustration we feel toward people who treated us unfairly. We bring the anger that sometimes rises when we remember what happened, and we place all of it in God's hands. This is not always easy because part of us wants to hold on to those feelings. Pain can make us feel justified in staying angry. Hurt can convince us that keeping distance is the safest choice. But when we hold on to bitterness, it does not just affect the person who hurt us, it slowly poisons our own hearts. Bitterness drains our peace. It steals our joy. It keeps us stuck in yesterday's pain while God is trying to lead us into today's healing. The beautiful thing about God is that he never asks us to carry pain alone. When we surrender our hurt to him, he begins doing a work inside us that we cannot accomplish by ourselves. He softens the places that became hard. He replaces anger with understanding. He begins untangling the emotions that felt overwhelming, and slowly, almost quietly, our hearts start becoming lighter again. Healing does not always happen instantly, but it always begins with surrender. There is a powerful shift that happens when we release bitterness to God. Instead of replaying the pain over and over in our minds, we begin trusting God with the story. Instead of trying to control the outcome or demand justice in our own way, allow God to work in ways we cannot see yet, and something amazing happens in that process. The grip of the past begins to loosen. The things that once triggered anger begin to lose their power. Our hearts begin to breathe again. Sometimes people think forgiveness means pretending the hurt never happened, but forgiveness is not denial. It is release. It is saying, God, I refuse to let this pain control my heart any longer. It is choosing freedom over resentment. It is trusting that God can handle what we cannot fix on our own. And when we make that choice, we create space for God's love to grow within us. Think about how different today could feel if you did not carry the weight of bitterness into it. Imagine walking into your conversations without the shadow of past disappointments hanging over your heart. Imagine responding to people with peace instead of tension, with patience instead of guardedness. That kind of freedom becomes possible when we allow God to heal the wounds we have been carrying. God's love does not only fill our hearts, it restores them. It goes into the deepest places where pain tried to settle and begins rewriting the story. The hurt that once defined your reaction can become the testimony of God's healing power. The situation that once hardened your heart can become the moment where God taught you how to live with greater compassion. So as this morning prayer continues, do not rush past this step. Take a moment and release what you have been holding. Give God the anger that keeps surfacing. Give him the memories that still bring sadness. Give him the disappointment that made trusting people difficult. Let him take those burdens and begin the process of healing your heart, because when bitterness leaves, love has room to grow again. God, I surrender every hurt and every hidden bitterness to you. Heal my heart so your love can live freely within me today. Once we ask God to fill our hearts with his love, and once we begin surrendering the hurt and bitterness we've been carrying, we start realizing something powerful about the journey of love. Loving people who are kind to us is not usually the challenge. When someone respects you, encourages you, and treats you well, loving them feels natural. It almost happens automatically, but the real test of the love God is teaching us often shows up in a different place. It shows up in the moments when we are face to face with people who are difficult to deal with, the ones who misunderstand us, the ones who speak too quickly without thinking about how their words land, the ones who respond with attitude, impatience, or negativity when we were simply trying to do our best. Those are the moments where the kind of love God is building inside us begins to matter the most. Because if we are honest, difficult people have a way of pulling reactions out of us that we did not plan to have. A single comment can make your patience disappear. A small act of disrespect can make your emotions rise instantly, and before you realize it, you are responding in a way that leaves you thinking later, why did I let that get to me? That is the reality of human emotion, but what God is teaching us through this prayer is that love guided by Him does not simply react, it responds with wisdom. It pauses before speaking. It chooses grace even when the moment feels tense. It refuses to allow someone else's attitude to control the direction of our own hearts. This is where God begins shaping our character in ways that go deeper than comfort, because difficult relationships often become the classroom where God teaches us the most about patience, humility, and compassion. It is easy to say we want to grow spiritually when everything around us feels peaceful, but growth usually happens when we are faced with situations that stretch our hearts, when someone pushes our patience, when someone challenges our expectations, when someone treats us in a way we know we would never treat them. Those are the moments where God quietly asks, will you trust me enough to love differently here? And loving differently does not mean pretending people's behavior is always okay. It does not mean allowing yourself to be treated without respect. What it means is that you refuse to let negativity multiply through you. Instead of returning frustration with frustration, you choose calm. Instead of returning harshness with harshness, you choose measured words. Instead of reacting out of anger, you allow God to guide your response. That kind of love is powerful because it interrupts the cycle that normally escalates conflict. It brings a different spirit into the situation. Many times the people who are hardest to love are carrying struggles we cannot see. The person who seems impatient may be dealing with pressure that has nothing to do with you. The person who speaks sharply may be carrying insecurities or pain they have never learned how to process. That does not excuse harmful behavior, but it reminds us that every person we meet has a story we do not fully understand. When God begins shaping our hearts, He helps us see beyond the surface of someone's actions and recognize the deeper human reality behind them. That perspective changes how we walk through the day. Instead of assuming the worst about people, we begin responding with grace. Instead of letting someone's negativity define the atmosphere, we bring peace into the room. That is not weakness. That is strength under the guidance of God's love. It takes far more strength to remain calm than it does to react in anger. It takes far more maturity to choose kindness when irritation would be easier. And when you allow God to guide your heart in those moments, something remarkable happens. You begin to notice that the situations that once drained you start losing their power over you. The comments that once ruined your mood no longer have the same impact. The tension that once followed certain interactions begins to fade, not because the world suddenly changed, but because your heart is responding from a different place. God's love has taken a deeper root inside you. As you move through this day, there will likely be moments where someone tests your patience. A conversation might not go the way you expected. Someone might say something that feels unfair. In those moments, remember the prayer you began with this morning. Remember that God's love is already filling your heart. Remember that the hurt you once carried is being healed, and now allow that same love to guide how you treat even the people who make it difficult. Because when God teaches you how to love in those moments, you begin reflecting something greater than your natural reactions. You begin reflecting His character. God, teach me to show patience, grace, and kindness even to the people who are hardest for me to love today. Now, after asking God to fill our hearts with His love, after surrendering the hurt and bitterness that tried to settle inside us, and after allowing Him to teach us how to love even the people who are difficult, we arrive at the moment where everything becomes real, because love is not only something we pray about, it is something we live out. Prayer prepares the heart, but action reveals what is truly inside the heart. And this is where today becomes powerful, because the opportunities to show God's love are not hidden somewhere far away. They are already waiting in the ordinary moments of your day. Every conversation you have today is an opportunity. Every person you encounter is an opportunity. The way you respond when someone speaks to you, the way you treat someone who may feel overlooked, the way you handle a frustrating situation, these are the places where the love God placed in your heart begins to show up in real life. Sometimes we think showing love has to be something dramatic or extraordinary. We imagine it requires a big moment or a grand gesture, but most of the time, love is revealed in the small decisions we make throughout the day. Love shows up in the tone of your voice when you speak to someone who is already stressed. Love shows up when you choose patience instead of reacting quickly. Love shows up when you notice someone who feels invisible and take a moment to encourage them. Love shows up when you forgive faster than your pride would normally allow. These moments may feel small while they are happening, but they carry incredible impact because they reflect the character of God in a world that often expects the opposite. Think about how powerful it is when someone responds with kindness in a moment where tension was expected. Think about how refreshing it feels when someone speaks with patience when everyone else seems rushed and frustrated. Those moments stay with people longer than we realize. A simple act of grace can change the entire direction of someone's day, and the beautiful truth is that God invites us to become the kind of people who bring that atmosphere into the spaces we walk into. But let's be honest for a moment, living this out is not always easy. There will be moments today where your patience will be tested. There may be situations where your first instinct is to respond out of frustration or irritation. That is part of being human. But the difference now is that you started your day differently. You began this morning asking God to fill your heart with His love. You released the pain that tried to harden your heart. You invited Him to teach you how to love even the difficult people in your life. That means when those challenging moments show up, you are not facing them empty, you are facing them equipped with a different spirit. Instead of letting the pressure of the moment control you, you can pause and remember the prayer you prayed earlier. You can take a breath and choose the response that reflects God's love rather than the reaction that simply reflects emotion. That pause might seem small, but it can change everything. In that moment, you shift from reacting automatically to responding intentionally, and that is where growth begins to show. Love is not proven in the quiet moments when everything feels easy. Love is revealed in the moments where it would have been easier to act differently. When you choose patience instead of anger, that is love in action. When you extend kindness to someone who did not expect it, that is love in action. When you decide to forgive rather than hold on to resentment, that is love in action. These choices may not always be noticed by everyone around you, but they are never wasted. Every act of love plants a seed in the atmosphere around you. Sometimes the love you show today will encourage someone who has been silently struggling. Sometimes it will calm a tense situation that could have turned into something worse. And sometimes the love you show will simply remind someone that goodness still exists in the world. That is the quiet power of living with a heart guided by God. And here is the beautiful part: when you begin practicing love in these everyday moments, it begins shaping who you are. The more you choose patience, the more patient you become. The more you choose kindness, the more natural kindness feels. Over time, what once required effort becomes part of your character. God's love moves from being something you occasionally try to demonstrate to something that naturally flows through your life. So as you step into the rest of this day, remember that the prayer you prayed this morning was not just words, it was preparation. God has already begun working in your heart. Now the invitation is simple: carry that love into every moment you walk through today. God, help me show your love through my words, my actions, and my attitude. In every moment of this day,